Hello and welcome to another Inside the Studio. I'm Pete Heslop.
And I'm Dan Jones.
And we are Steadfast Collective. We are a digital product studio based on the South Coast, and this is our weekly video series just lifting the lid on what it's like to run an agency.
It sure is. So this week we're going to be talking about what to consider when you start a business. And I think it comes down to three sort of key points. And the first one is you need to concrete the idea.
Okay.
So you need to really sit down and sort of explore the idea and analyse and see exactly what you're wanting to build.
Yeah.
So what is the idea that you're trying to build, and where is that coming from, and what's your justification for doing it? And then I think from there as well, you also need to think about who it's for, and ultimately, are people going to pay for it?
Yeah. So we meet a lot of people who have a lot of ideas. Often they believe their idea is quite innovative. It may not be. There might already be something on the market. And often part of our initial discussions with them is less about development or design. It's more about business ideas. Like, have they thought about the strategy of this? I was talking to somebody recently who gave an example of somebody who really niched on building accountant websites.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they ran out of money they realised that accountants aren't willing to pay a lot of money for websites. Who would have thought? Yeah. So and it's one of those things, like, you know, you might have all the best intentions for an idea, but if that industry isn't used to spending a lot of money on the service you're trying to provide, then that's a big jump. Or potentially there's already somebody filling that gap and it's just not a necessary need. The amount of times, you know, that people try and solve a problem. We see this time and time again in Silicon Valley where they're trying to solve a problem which just doesn't exist.
Yeah, or it's been solved already.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that's done all the time. People try and reinvent the wheel when, like, there's something that exists that does the job perfectly well. So I think if you're really trying to break into, like, an area that's already existing and there's competition there already, you need to think about what you're bringing to the table and what that key sort of unique selling point is for your business, and why people would choose you over another big company. It might even come down to that you're just doing it cheaper. It might be that there's lots of companies that are doing something for hundreds of pounds a month and you can do it for smaller businesses and do it well for the cost there. That might be your unique selling point. Or it might be that you need to add new features, or you need to strip away features and make it sort of more focused.
And once you've thought of that, you need to be able to say that. You need to be able to say it in... I always think people should be able to describe their business in three ways. In one line, in a paragraph, and in like a one-page document.
Yeah.
So if I meet somebody and I say, what's the idea? And they ramble for 10 minutes, they don't know what their idea is. They should be able to tell me very quickly, and I should be able to ask a question and they should go into a longer description.
Yeah.
And it concerns me a lot when people are still confused in their heads what the idea is, because if they can't clarify what the idea is, no one else has got a hope of understanding it.
I find a lot of the time it comes down to you have a lot of ideas about sort of potential routes you could take the business, but you don't have one central sort of focus. And it might be that you need to find that central focus, and then those other pillars of the sort of business will come around later, but they're not the core point of the business. So for example, with my old business, we had sort of our main app that we were focusing on, but then we also wanted to do potentially clothing and stuff like that. But it made no sense that we would describe it as, oh yeah, we're a fitness company that does clothing, and we also have an app, and we also maybe want to do...
you do?
Yeah, exactly. So like our key selling point is we have a fitness app and it generates custom training plans just for you. And that was like the key sort of point.
That's the point of the business.
Yeah, but then I think it's really important to be able to like expand upon that as you meet people, and as the context changes, and when you're sat down in different sort of places with different people, it might be that sometimes you need to be able to give a bit more detail. You might be in a pitch meeting or something like that. Sure. And having those three things, and I think that's something you've spent a lot of time doing on Steadfast.
Yeah, for sure. So we spent a long time going through what is Steadfast. So we're a digital product company who build high caliber web applications. We then have a one paragraph version of that, and we have a whole page paragraph, a whole page version of what it is, what we do, why we do it. But I think it's easy, and we will move on to point 2 very quickly. But I think it's easy for web developers to get confused when people ask them in our industry. They're like, "What do you do?" And if you don't know the person, quite often you'll go, "We build websites."
Yeah.
That's not even what we really do. We build complex web applications.
Yeah.
But because we're, it's confusing. So I think as an industry, as a development industry, we need to get better at that. And I think as a whole, people need to get better at being able to describe their business in one line.
Yeah, definitely.
So point 2 is, so you've got the idea, you've solidified it, you understand it clearly, you can tell people it clearly.
Yeah.
Point 2 is, what is the cheapest way you can prove this idea has legs?
Yep.
So let's say you want to launch a product, a mobile app, for instance.
Yep.
And the mobile app teaches you how to fix cars.
Yep.
Great. Rather than spending a load of money on building this application, which takes a lot of time to do, why don't you maybe start a mailing list or a Twitter account which gives tips and tricks?
Yeah.
And you can then start there to see whether people are actually interested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And quite often we see people jumping into big ideas to only see it flop.
Yeah.
So a good example of a company who did this well is Drift. They do live chat support and marketing through live chat.
Yep.
And before they launched, they spent a year writing about growth hacking, which then meant when it kind of came round to it, they were able to announce their product, but they were able to start with a mailing list. Do people care about this? Okay, great. What's kind of the minimum product we can release? Okay, great. This is the main product. They already had all this previous history with people ready to go, and they had proven the concept time and time again before they shipped their first major product.
Yeah, so it's not just about proving the product as well. You're also, by doing that, you're also building your audience and ensuring that you've got people there who already know what you're doing and are really focused on knowing you as an individual or as a company and knowing that you know what you're doing and having that platform to launch to when you sort of take the next step and try and build it bigger.
So this is our point 3, is having an audience. And you've let's say you've clarified your idea, you've proven it works to a small number of people, you then build your idea, you then launch it, and you have no following, you have no marketing strategy, dead.
Yeah.
Like
we see this
dead.
We see this quite often in sort of a lot of industries where someone will build something in isolation and it's interesting, but they've got no audience to sell it to.
Yeah.
And building that up from scratch is really, really hard. They spend years and years and years building a product, and then they go to launch it, and then they're just shouting into the void, basically,
100%.
because no one's there to listen to them.
Yeah.
Whereas if they spent a year beforehand, maybe giving like some value up front and giving people information about it and helping people in that area and building up an audience, when they go to build that product, they can shout about it, and then there's people there to shout back at them and be like, this is great.
There's 2 things there. So the Laravel creator, Taylor, almost calls this like a value bank. So he says you need to give a load of value up front and keep going, and almost like you're depositing money into a bank. So then when you do come to make a withdrawal and you go, can you please try our app? That's quite a big withdrawal. That's quite a lot of effort for somebody.
Yeah.
But hopefully you've built up enough credit that when you do it, they're up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're able to take people on that early journey of the app, Basecamp, their book Rework, they talk about having fans is more valuable than having customers, because a fan will do your marketing for you.
Oh, exactly.
Like I'm sure there's brands you follow where you check their website more often than they email you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like even
like Apple, right?
Yeah.
So WWDC's been, you're gonna either watch the stream or we're gonna have a long conversation about it the next day. They don't need to sell us their product.
No.
We will actively go out and find out why that's a good product, and then tell our friends why they should buy the new AirPods.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense, and it's building up that that bank of value, and it's giving more than you're asking to take, and that's not necessarily, it's not monetary value or anything like that. It can be as simple as reaching out to someone who's asked a question on Twitter and being like, here's the answer, or here's where to look for the answer.
100%.
And that can go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. So we wanted to chat. We meet a lot of people who are starting new businesses or expanding their current ones, and we just wanted to give our thoughts on what we would do if we were starting from scratch. So the key things are to really clarify your idea, really understand what you're doing, who it's aimed at, are they going to pay for it, and go on.
Yeah.
Number 2 is validate. Talk to people who are going to be using the app. Is it something they're interested in? Do they actually have the problem you think they have?
Yeah.
And then how quickly and cheaply can you start providing value of a similar nature to almost start building that credit to check that people actually want this solution?
Yeah, I think one more really important part about that as well is that it shouldn't just be your friends and family that you speak to. You need to go out and speak to people who are in the industry
who are brutal,
yeah, and will give you honest feedback. Like, your friends and family will support you, hopefully, no matter what.
Yeah.
But if you go and speak to actual customers or potential customers, they will give you brutal feedback.
They will tell you whether it's a bad idea.
Yeah, and they'll say, "Oh, we don't actually need this," and then you'll know, and it saves you
money
and time.
And then number 3 is once you're there and once you're going, you need to start building that audience from day one. And people love to be a part of things. Like, I can remember products that I've been part of from the early days.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like Product Hunt, for instance. I was part of Product Hunt on the early days. I feel a part of that community. And I think it's important that people start joining the community early, and there'll be people who wave the biggest flags when you do come to ship your product.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Cool. So if you've got any other questions or any tips that you'd like to share with us, reach out to us on social. That's on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, anywhere like that. Comment on YouTube. We film these live, so we've got the video and the podcast.
Yep, definitely. And next week we're going to be doing a Q&A. So send through your questions to us, and we're going to go through as many as we can. So if you've got questions on digital products, what it's like to run a business, an agency, hiring, cash flow, any of those things, send them through, and we're going to be going through them next week.
Perfect.
Great.
See you then.
See you then. Cheers.
Bye.